What's your ultimate Karen gets her karma? The park Karen who finally met her match. If you've ever worked in or near a public space, you know there are two types of regulars: the kind who make the place feel warm and familiar, and the kind who make you wish you could dig a tunnel and escape whenever you see them coming. For me, that second type was perfectly embodied in one woman. A woman whose name I'll keep to myself, but who absolutely deserves the nickname: Karen. I worked part-time as a volunteer coordinator for the city's public park. It wasn't a huge park, but it was beautiful. Acres of green lawn, a children's playground, a small lake with ducks, a running track, picnic benches, and a performance gazebo. I loved the place. I loved watching families laugh, kids play, joggers wave to each other, and elderly couples feed the ducks. But every paradise has its snake. Ours was Karen. Karen came almost every single day, around 4 p.m. sharp, wearing huge sunglasses, perfectly pressed linen clothes, and an expression like she owned the world. She wasn't technically doing anything illegal most of the time, but she had a talent for making everything everyone else did her business. She would march around, scolding people for existing. "Your music is too loud." She'd yell at a group of teenagers who were playing their speaker at a perfectly reasonable volume. "Your dog isn't on the exact right part of the leash." She'd bark at dog owners who were walking peacefully. "These children are too noisy," she'd complain to parents in a public playground. The kicker? She thought she owned the main picnic table area. She sat there every afternoon, spread her things like it was a throne, and chased away anyone who got near. "This is my table," she'd snap, waving her perfectly manicured hands. "I've been sitting here for years." Everyone knows that. It was a public park. No one owned anything. But she acted like she was the queen, and the worst part was, most people just backed off. They didn't want the drama. Karen was relentless. One day, a group of young moms brought their toddlers for a play date. They sat at her picnic table because it was the only shaded one left. Karen stormed over. "I don't know where you people are from," she started, hands on her hips, "but this is my spot. I sit here every afternoon." The moms stared, confused. One of them gently said, "It's a public park. There are other tables." Karen leaned down to their toddlers and hissed, "Don't touch my table, sweetie. That's not yours." The moms left. Another time, a retired man named Harry was feeding ducks by the lake. She accused him of wasting food and contaminating the water. Even though he was using approved duck feed we gave out at the information booth, she yelled so loud that 2 families with kids walked away. But she didn't just pick fights. She filed complaints, dozens of them, to the city, to the park office, to the mayor. She complained about the grass being too green, the benches being too close together, the trees dropping too many leaves, and the kind of people the park attracted. That last one was as gross as it sounds. She wasn't just annoying. She was poisoning the atmosphere of a place meant to bring people together. The final straw came on a sunny Saturday in June. We were hosting our annual community picnic day. It was the biggest event of the year. Food trucks, music, kids' games, local musicians, booths for small businesses, and a charity fundraiser for the park's upkeep. People loved it. It brought hundreds of folks together. Naturally, Karen hated it. She showed up at 2 p.m., the peak of the event, and marched straight to her picnic table, which was already occupied by a big multi-generational family. They were eating, laughing, taking pictures. It was beautiful. Karen planted herself in front of them and screeched, "You are in my spot." They blinked, confused. "This is public seating," the dad said kindly. "We've been here since noon." "I don't care," she shrieked. "I sit here every day. Everyone knows this is my table." People around started to look. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Karen didn't stop. She started taking the family's plates off the table, muttering about outsiders taking what's hers. A few kids started crying. One of the moms yelled at her to stop. And then, because apparently she needed to win the day, she called the police. Yes, over a picnic table. She told them people were harassing her and stealing her property. I was standing at the information booth nearby, so I saw everything. When the officers arrived, she waved dramatically. "Officers! These people took my table." The officers looked at her like she was insane. One of them calmly said, "Ma'am, this is a public park. Nobody owns any tables." She huffed, "You're useless." They didn't arrest anyone, obviously. But the family was shaken. Some kids were crying. The event's vibe was ruined for at least a half hour. I'd had enough. I'm not a naturally vengeful person. But some people push you to your limit. Karen had bullied elderly people, families, volunteers, even children. And now she was calling the police on innocent people for sitting at a public picnic table during a charity event. I realized she wasn't just annoying, she was dangerous. She thought her entitlement was the law. But here's the thing about public spaces. There are rules. She just assumed they didn't apply to her. I started digging. The city kept a record of complaints filed and incidents reported in public spaces. Karen's name popped up so many times. Not just at our park, other nearby public spots too. She was a serial nuisance. She'd filed noise complaints against teenagers playing frisbee, harassed people walking dogs, screamed at a band doing a city-approved performance, tried to claim a bench by the lake as hers. She'd been warned by park security before, but warnings alone weren't enough. She needed something loud in public, the same way she humiliated others. And I knew exactly when to do it. Every July, the park hosted a summer concert series. It was a big deal. Free live music on the gazebo stage, food stalls, vendors dancing, families bringing picnic blankets, couples watching the sunset. It drew hundreds of people. And guess who always showed up? Karen. Every year, she'd sit at the same picnic table, scream at people to stay away, complain about the music, and tell kids to stop laughing so loud. But this time, I was ready. With permission from the park supervisor and the city, I installed new signage on all picnic tables a few days before the concert. Each table had a bright metal plaque. Open quote, public use only. First come, first served. No reservations. No one may claim ownership of this table. Close quote. We also stationed 2 park officers at the event. Not cops, but uniformed staff with authority to handle disturbances. And I made sure to set up the community booth right next to Karen's table. So if anything happened, I'd see it all. The concert day came. It was perfect. Warm breeze, blue sky, a local jazz band warming up on stage. Families arrived early, laying out blankets, setting up chairs, claiming tables. At 4:30 p.m., the inevitable happened. Karen arrived. She walked straight toward her picnic table. Except this time, a group of college students had gotten there first. They were eating nachos, laughing, playing cards, completely unaware of the storm about to hit them. Karen planted herself in front of them like a vulture. "This is my table," she declared. One of the students, a tall guy with a friendly smile, looked up. It says public use only." "I don't care what it says," she snapped. "I sit here every year. Everyone knows this is my spot." He pointed to the plaque. Then maybe everyone forgot. Her face twisted. "Get up," she said sharply. "Now." They laughed, not mockingly, just in disbelief. "You're serious?" She didn't answer. She reached for their food trays like she was about to move them herself. I stepped out from the booth. "Karen," I called, calmly but loud enough for nearby people to hear. "Step away from their table." She turned to me with her usual sneer. "I don't need to listen to you. You work for me." "No," I said, walking closer. "I work for the park, and this isn't your table." By now, people nearby were watching. The band had even paused for sound check. It was one of those moments where the air goes still before a storm. Karen started yelling, really yelling. "This is harassment. I have been coming here for 15 years. This is my table. You're all just jealous because people respect me here." People started laughing. Someone shouted, "Respect you? Lady, we're just here for the music." She pointed at the students. "They need to leave." I pointed at the plaque on the table. "Karen, the rules are clear. This is public space. If you don't stop harassing these people, you'll be asked to leave." She turned beet red. "You can't kick me out of my park." That's when the 2 park officers calmly approached. "Ma'am," one said evenly, "you've been warned multiple times. This table isn't yours. You're disrupting a city event." She laughed nervously. "You're bluffing." The second officer held a clipboard with a printed sheet. "Karen, this is a formal behavior notice. You have 6 recorded complaints this season alone. Under City Park Regulation 3.2, repeated harassment or disruption allows us to issue a 72-hour removal order. If you refuse, police will be called." The crowd murmured. Phones came out. People were filming. Karen's eyes darted around. She wasn't used to being the villain in public. Usually, people just gave in to avoid the drama. Not this time. You're all ganging up on me, she yelled, spinning around. I built this park. Someone shouted, Lady, it was built in the 1950s. Laughter broke out. She refused to move at first, yelling about lawsuits and conspiracies, but the officers were calm and firm. When they repeated the warning about police involvement, she finally stepped back. But she didn't walk away quietly. She tripped over the edge of a planter, stumbled, and spilled her iced coffee all over her pristine linen outfit. Gasps and a few snickers rippled through the crowd. The college students at the table cheered quietly. A kid nearby whispered, Karma. The officers escorted her out of the park's event zone as dozens of people watched. Someone started clapping. Then others joined in. The jazz band started playing again. Karen stormed off, face red, coffee stains down her front, the queen dethroned. The city took things seriously this time. Because the incident was witnessed by dozens of people and caught on video, they issued her a 30-day park suspension for repeated harassment and disruption of public events. She tried to fight it, filed another series of complaints, but it backfired. The videos went mildly viral in the community group online. People shared stories of their own Karen encounters. Turns out, she'd been terrorizing the park for years. Now, everyone knew her reputation. She didn't have the power to intimidate anymore. When she finally returned after her suspension, things had changed. No one avoided her. No one gave up tables. If she raised her voice, someone immediately said, We can call the park office again. She sat at random benches now. Quiet. Bitter. Powerless. The park felt peaceful, like a weight had been lifted. Families picnicked without fear of being yelled at. Elderly folks fed ducks in peace. Teenagers played music. College students studied on the grass. No one tiptoed around an entitled woman who thought the park belonged to her. The best part? That picnic table she used to claim became known as the Freedom Table. People took selfies there. Someone taped a tiny rubber duck to the plaque with a sign that said, open quote, reserved for everyone. Close quote. Karen thought she was untouchable because for years, she was. People gave in to her demands to avoid a scene. But when the rules caught up to her and the community finally stood together, her little kingdom crumbled in front of everyone. No physical harm, no cruelty, just her own entitlement, met with calm, firm reality. She lost the one thing she valued most, control. Like and subscribe. Share if this happened to you or someone you know.